do I age well? It's something I often ponder on. My name's Rosaria Barreto, and I want to find out what it takes to live a healthy and happy life as we age. I'm a clinical exercise specialist, and for the past 5 years, I've worked with nearly 1,000 older adults, and as a result, have had the chance to talk to a diverse range of happy and healthy, and not so happy and healthy people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I want to know what it takes to be able to look back and confidently say, I lived an amazing life. Why not join me in this exploration on what it takes to live happily and healthily and learn how to age well? Hi, and welcome back to How to Age Well with me, Rosaria Barreto. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode, which was all about how golf can impact healthy aging. Today's episode is going to be about, can sitting affect healthy aging? And is it one of the biggest killers in the world? I will never forget hearing the phrase, sitting is a bigger killer than smoking, probably about 5 years ago. And we're just going to go and unpack that throughout today's episode. So sitting has been a huge barrier to achieving physical health for such a long time. But I think it has been particularly heightened, or the awareness around it has been heightened since the pandemic. Sitting for prolonged periods of time has been linked to several health issues, particularly as people age. And the reason for that is because the older we are, the longer we've sat. So I'm going to go through a breakdown of why excessive sitting can be detrimental to health. Before we do that, it's important to outline what excessive sitting is. So excessive sitting is anything that means you're sitting for longer than 30 minutes. Now, that might shock you, but it's true. Anything that means that you're static or stationary for that amount of time will start to implement changes that can impact your health. For example, shortening of hamstrings. If you're sitting for long periods of time, your muscles are going to start to get shorter, and then they'll be affected. And that will affect things like posture, back pain, and ability to walk. So if we look at it from somebody who works in an office, you're sitting for possibly 5 to 8 to 10 hours of 10 hours a day, and you're not getting up regularly. Now, I think this is where it's really important to point out that there are ways to combat this if you do work in an office, if you're required to sit for prolonged periods of time. Get a standing desk, look into getting a standing desk. It is a game changer. You're still able to do your work, but you're able to work more productively. You're optimizing your posture and reducing chances of developing plethora of illnesses that are caused by sedentary living or sitting for prolonged periods of time. And I think that sitting and sedentary living come hand in hand. If you're sedentary, you're most likely just sitting down most of the time. And if you don't know what sedentary is, it's basically not moving. You're basically, I always think of a couch potato, somebody who is literally just glued to the TV all the time and is sat, and that's a sedentary person. So number one, we're just going to go through looking at increased risk of chronic diseases. So there are so many chronic diseases, but during today's episode, I'm going to focus on 2 main health conditions. So number one is cardiovascular disease. So extended sitting contributes to things like poor circulation and increased risk of heart disease. So sitting for long periods basically slows blood flow, which can lead to increased blood pressure and high cholesterol levels. And that's how a simple thing like just sitting for too long can lead to cardiovascular disease. So I want to back this up with research, because I think that is really important. Like, we know that this is true, but how can we prove it? So a 2021 meta-analysis published in the European Journal of Preventative Cardiology found that prolonged sedentary behaviour was associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease and mortality. The study highlighted that even if individuals engaged in regular exercise, prolonged sitting still posed a significant risk. The mechanisms involved include poor circulation and reduced vascular health, which contributes to atherosclerosis and heart disease. And I think it's really important to kind of point out that you could be doing CrossFit every single morning, but sitting from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. and you are still at high risk of developing cardiovascular disease. And that's what I meant by if you're sitting for longer than 30 minutes at a time, you are significantly increasing your risk of developing lots of health conditions. So ways to do that is setting a timer. Even if you're just walking on the spot for 2 minutes every 30 minutes, great. If you can get a standing desk, even better. If you can plan your day so that you're sedentary for less, great. So the second thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to chronic health conditions is looking at diabetes. So when we're looking at diabetes, we're going to be talking about type 2 diabetes. And as you may or may not know, sedentary behaviour is associated with insulin resistance. So I'm just going to repeat that. Sedentary behaviour is associated with insulin resistance. So just by doing nothing, you are creating a insulin resistant body. Not everyone, but a lot of people. So this can increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, and this is mainly linked to reduced glucose metabolism and decreased activity in your muscles. So a 2023 study in Diabetologia showed that sitting time was positively associated with the risk of type 2 diabetes. The study found that increased sedentary behaviour was linked to a higher insulin resistance and impaired glucose metabolism. And this just massively emphasises that even short bouts of physical activity can improve glucose regulation and insulin sensitivity. So it's really important to, as I said, incorporate breaks, do light activity throughout the day, and this is going to massively reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Just going to have a sip of my tea. So they are just two of very, very many examples of how sitting is linked to risk of chronic health conditions. The next thing I'm going to talk about is more focused on musculoskeletal health. So musculoskeletal health is anything associated to your skeletal system and your muscles. So that could be things like back pain, or it could be things like arthritis. It could be osteoporosis, different things like that. That all kind of comes under musculoskeletal problems. So number one, the most obvious, and I've talked about this time and time again throughout many podcast episodes, is poor posture. Sitting is a huge problem when it comes to posture. It leads to back, neck, and shoulder pain. And this is because the lack of movement weakens those muscles associated to posture. Our muscles are supposed to be used. They're supposed to be stimulated. And if we're sitting, we're not doing those things. They are going to deteriorate. And as a result of this muscle deterioration, you're going to experience muscle stiffness, discomfort, and even pain, which can be very, very problematic and really impact somebody's day-to-day life. So a 2022 review in the Journal of Physical Therapy Science examined the effects of prolonged sitting on posture and musculoskeletal health. And they concluded that long periods of sitting, especially with poor ergonomics, so that basically means like sitting badly, and maybe you have a bad chair, maybe you're sitting on the sofa, maybe you've got shoes that are affecting your posture, all of those things can contribute to spinal misalignment. And this increases back pain and muscle strain. And then over time, sitting like this will exacerbate the issues. So it becomes more complex, harder to fix. So looking at things like ergonomic adjustments, like proper chair height, which I would just get rid of chairs. Like, we don't need chairs. Okay, maybe some people need chairs. If you've got any neurological conditions or balance issues, then sometimes you will need a chair. But if you work on improving your strength and your endurance and your posture, you will not need to use a chair as much. And only use a chair when you absolutely need it and you feel that fatigued. Get used to standing, get used to using a standing desk. So that's number one. If you're sitting a lot and you're working at a desk, I think that is the most obvious example. Some of us don't work at desks. We're very lucky. I know that I drive a lot. So even if you're somebody who drives a lot, we can't get a standing desk. So doing things like stretching even more, because I know, like, if you're someone like a lorry driver, or you're a delivery person, or somebody has to drive like every half an hour or something like that for your job, maybe you're a dog walker or someone like that, you have to then compensate or find another way of battling that. So stretch in the morning, stretch in the evening, go for walks during the middle of the day. All of those things are going to make such a difference. They're going to alleviate the issues, and they're going to promote better musculoskeletal health. The next one is reduced muscle mass. So from that kind of muscle point of view, excuse me one sec, I'm just going to have another sip. It's 5 p.m. here, so I'm going to need that tea, that good tea, to keep my energy up. As I mentioned briefly before, muscle deterioration, so muscle atrophy, will occur if you're sitting for long periods of time. As I said, you could be somebody who goes and does weightlifting every morning for an hour. But if you're sitting from 9 till 5, you are still going to face muscle atrophy because you're not using your muscles regularly enough throughout the day. And this is particularly, for example, in the lower body and in the torso area, because you're not putting weight through your legs. You're relying very much on your hips to take a lot of the weight, and you're not moving, so nothing's being used. If you don't use it, you lose it. So this can affect things like mobility, stability, increased risk of falls. I think pain is obviously the most important one, because nobody wants to live with daily pain. Nobody does. And then also risk of falls. It's not something we think about until we're like 70. And then you're like, because to recover from a fall in your 70s is much harder than recovering from a fall in your 40s. So things like that, really, really important. And the next one, I'm just going to quickly go to my research. So a 2023 study of the journal in the Journal of Gerontology, Series A, found that older adults who sit for extended periods of time show a faster rate of muscle mass loss compared to those who are more active. The study highlighted that sedentary behavior negatively affects muscle protein synthesis and overall muscle health. So muscle protein synthesis is so important for muscle mass growth, and without it, impossible to increase the size of your muscles. And if you're not increasing the size of your muscles and you're stimulating them, then your muscle health is not going to be good. So I think also I've been using working as a really good example of sedentary living, but a lot of retired people sit a lot. They maybe haven't taken up sports, or they watch a lot of TV, or they're sat on a computer just doing their own kind of research. What's a really good example, have developed an injury or risk of falls, and as a result, they're too scared to do much walking and moving around. So this is for people who are listening who potentially have noticed that they're sitting a bit more than they usually do. Or if you know someone and you care for someone who started to sit a lot, start encouraging them to move more. And the way to battle this is extremely obvious: resistance training, weight training, weight-bearing exercise. They are going to preserve muscle mass strength. So keep it going, keep doing those things. And if you don't know where to start, I actually have a YouTube channel where you can watch videos that will guide you to do exercises. So if you want a free version, if you would like to have even more support, I have a £20 a month monthly subscription to online and in-person exercise classes that focus on resistance training and weight-bearing exercises. So you can also check that out at www.maturemovers.uk. And you could be from the US and access some of our online stuff. All of our in-person stuff is currently only offered within the UK, but hopefully we will expand to the US soon. Next up is our metabolic issues. So, metabolic issues. Now, a really good example of what a metabolic issue could be is weight gain. So one of the biggest issues with sedentary living is if you're not moving, you're not burning calories, you're not optimizing your metabolism, and this then reduces your sitting reduces your physical activity, and then you're in an imbalance between calorie intake and expenditure. And the problem with weight gain is that it can lead to obesity, and the problem with being obese is that you are at a much higher risk level to develop a plethora of long-term health conditions: diabetes, arthritis, lung health problems, risk of heart attack. Obesity is not good. It's just not good. So just to point out how not good it is, a 2023 study in obesity reviews found that prolonged sitting is a significant contributor to weight gain and obesity. And the research noted that sedentary behavior reduces energy expenditure. So you might find that you're starting to become more fatigued, more lethargic, and it contributes to an imbalance between calorie intake and expenditure. Now, of course, if you are eating, 1,000 calories a day, which isn't a lot, you're eating 1,000 calories a day and you are sitting for most of the day, you are still going to gain weight because you are not expending those 1,000 calories. So obviously, just sit less, exercise more. I don't mean to be patronizing, but this is the only way that we're going to tackle things like obesity. And a lot of it comes down to food, mainly with obesity and metabolic issues. But for the purpose of today's episode, when we're talking about sedentary living, exercise is really, really important. And then the second one is a reduced metabolism. So sitting for long will slow down your metabolism, which negatively impacts various bodily functions. For example, regulation of blood sugar and fat storage. And this is really important because the regulation of blood sugar and fat storage is really important because it impacts other areas of health. I'm just going to quickly go into some more detail. It reduces things like if you're sitting for a long period of time, there's minimal muscle activity, which then results in lower energy expenditure. And muscle contractions, now you wouldn't even know this unless you studied this area, but muscle contractions help regulate glucose and fat metabolism. Let's just take that in. Muscle contractions help regulate glucose and fat metabolism, and that reduced activity can lead to increased calorific burn or caloric burn. Okay, so without even knowing it, you're impacting your glucose regulation just by sitting. Now, when it comes to that glucose regulation, impaired glucose uptake is really important. So things like muscle cells are a primary site for glucose uptake. Obviously, we need glucose for energy, and muscles require lots of energy to contract. So they are a main site for uptake. And because we're sitting for a long period of time, muscle contractions are reduced, which then impairs the ability of muscles to take up the glucose from the bloodstream just because they're not being used. And then that can lead to higher blood sugar levels. We'll talk about that for ages. We will move on. Okay, we've got 3 more. We've got mental health implications, circulatory problems, and bone health. So let's start with those mental health problems. Sedentary living. So I have worked in mental, sorry, I might be muffled because I've got my hand in front of my mouth. That's not good. I've been working in the mental health sector for many, many years. I've experienced poor mental health myself personally. I've also seen other people very close to me experience poor mental health. And I won't say who, but somebody who was extremely unwell, that's very close to me, was struggling with their mental health, depression, severe depression on antidepressants. And I turned around and said, I know it seems hard right now, but exercise is so important right now. Even if you're just going out for a walk every single day, it doesn't have to be hard, just try and get out there. And they turned around and said, I've been to the doctors, they've told me that the only thing I can do except for take my antidepressants is exercise, and it just doesn't work. It's just a load of rubbish. Then I proceeded to ask, have you even tried? And they said no, because I know it doesn't work. You don't know until you try, and it has to be consistent. Just because you go out for one walk, I promise you will still feel better after one walk. But until you've done it regularly, you will not see the size of impact from regular exercise. Since my own mental health kind of burnout experience in 2021, I've made it such a priority to exercise, even if I'm so busy, even if I really do not want to. I force myself to exercise because I know that if I get into a habit of not exercising, I'm going to get depressed. So the reason that mental health is so heavily associated to exercise, or optimized mental health is so associated to what am I saying? I'm tired now. Let's start again. Physical activity is so powerful when it comes to positive mental health. And the reason it is because it improves mood, and ultimately, as improved mood comes, much more hormones are triggered, other internal processes are happening, and you're reducing the chances of developing depression and anxiety. I just want to go into really briefly into how that works and why. And the reason is all down to hormones. We talked about this on one of my other episodes, so feel free to go and have a listen to that. But basically, your mood and mental health are linked to your hormones, and your hormones are linked to your mood and your mental health. And when you do physical activity, there are several outcomes. But if we flip it around and we look at the fact that if you're not doing physical activity, this is what happens. You're not releasing endorphins and hormones and neurotransmitters because your brain is not receiving those necessary chemical reactions that act to trigger the release of certain hormones, those good chemicals. And the most amazing thing about things like endorphins are they're natural painkillers and mood enhancers. So by exercising, you are stimulating internal painkillers and mood enhancers. You're literally forcing your body to feel happier. Another really important area is talking specifically about certain neurotransmitters. So you've got serotonin and dopamine. So with serotonin, it's important for things like regulating mood, sleep, and appetite. And low serotonin is massively associated to depression and anxiety. So without exercise, your serotonin levels are naturally just going to be low, increasing the risk of depression and anxiety. Then you've also got dopamine, and that is involved in sense of pleasure, reward, and motivation. And it plays a key role in the brain's reward system. and is associated with feelings of satisfaction. So if you're not exercising, you're not going to feel satisfied in life, in your day-to-day activities. You're just not going to feel satisfied. And the feeling of being unsatisfied is such a horrible feeling. And I know that that is something that really impacts my anxiety. And what exercise does is it releases, so you exercise, which releases dopamine, which enhances your mood and motivation. And then that will then improve your motivation to do more, to exercise more, to make better choices. So it's all linked. There are a few more hormones and endorphins that I could talk about, but the main one that I want to talk about next is cortisol, and that's known as the stress hormone. And basically it's involved in the body's response to stress and regulation of metabolism. So regular activity regulates cortisol levels, reducing things like chronic stress and negative effects. And it can lower the baseline of cortisol levels and improve the body's ability to manage stress, which is really, really important. So if you're not moving, you're going to have increased cortisol levels, which are associated with increased stress, anxiety, and depressive symptoms. So there you have it. And just a quick bit of research. The 2023 review in the JAMA Psychiatry found that physical activity is effective in reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety. And the review highlighted that exercise-induced changes in neurotransmitter systems and hormone levels play a key role in mental health benefits, which just to me shows that mental health and physical activity are so aligned, and we have to be doing more from a mental health perspective to promote better, from a physical activity perspective to promote better mental health. Okay, we are going to move on to our last two. So we've got circulatory problems and bone health. So circulatory problems, we've got the best example is deep vein thrombosis, DVT. And that is an illness that can cause a lot of health conditions, but death is one of them. That's a big one. But also, it can prevent you from doing a lot of things if you have DVT. For example, just go back to my notes. If you're sitting for long periods of time, it's just increasing the risk of developing blood clots, and that's what forms deep vein thrombosis. And the reduced circulation leads to clots, and that is super, super detrimental if it travels to things like lungs or other parts of the body. And then my little bit of research around that says, a 2023 review in thrombosis research highlighted that prolonged sitting increases the risk of developing deep vein thrombosis due to reduced blood flow and venous stasis. The review emphasised that prolonged immobility, such as long flights or desk work, significantly raises the risk of clot formation. And literally the only way to prevent that is exercise and movement and apart from drugs, keep your blood moving. Finally, we're on to our bone health. So, bone health is significantly associated with exercise. It's one of those things that we don't appreciate until something bad happens. For example, we get diagnosed with osteoporosis, we have a fracture, we have a severe health condition that affects our daily life, which is all surrounding bone health. So, for example, the main thing around bone health is bone density loss. And if we're not doing things like impact exercises, weight-bearing exercises, our bone density is reduced, and that can lead to a lot of health conditions. For example, if you fall and you have low bone density, you are much more likely to develop a break, and then that break can impact you for the rest of your life. Another example, if you're experiencing osteoporosis, you may not be able to do certain activities because the intensity of those activities lead you to high risk of injury, or bone damage. And that's just not nice. Like, it's not nice not being able to do something because you have a health condition. So a 2022 study in Osteoporosis International found that prolonged sedentary behaviour is associated with lower bone density and increased risk of osteoporosis. And the study noted that weight-bearing activities are essential for maintaining bone health, and prolonged sitting reduces the mechanical load on bones. And that is the key point there, the mechanical load on bones. So we've got to stand more, we've got to walk more. But overall, every bit of research that looks into physical activity, kind of the strong research within the sports science sector, within the health sector, shows that reducing sedentary behaviour and integrating regular physical activity into our daily routines will mitigate adverse health effects associated with prolonged sitting. And there are a lot. So I hope that's been beneficial. I hope you've learned a lot. It's a lot of information. And make sure to pass this on to anybody you think would benefit. Your mum, your dad, your gran, your neighbour, your sister, your brother, anybody, your friend. Please pass this on, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye. My name's Rosaria Barreto, and thank you so much for listening to How to Age Well. If you've enjoyed the podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback means so much and helps others to find out about how to age well.